Most people think intermittent fasting is about weight loss, about eating less, cutting calories, and watching the number on the scale slowly drop. But that's not what your liver is actually doing during those hours without food. Something far more important and far more invisible is happening inside your body. And the truth is, you could be doing intermittent fasting right now and still have no idea whether your body is actually burning fat or just waiting. Your liver is one of the most intelligent and overworked organs in your entire body. It performs over 500 different functions every single day. It filters toxins from your blood, processes nutrients, regulates energy, and decides, moment by moment, whether your body should store energy or release it. And yet, most people never think about it. They focus on calories, workouts, and weight, while the real control center is quietly working in the background. Here's where it gets more serious. About 1 in 3 adults worldwide have excess fat stored inside their liver. Not around it, not under the skin, inside it. And most of them have no idea. Because fatty liver doesn't usually cause pain. It doesn't give you clear symptoms in the beginning. You can feel completely normal, while your liver is slowly becoming overloaded, inflamed, and less efficient at doing the very things that keep you alive. This isn't just about health in the long term. This directly affects how your body handles fat right now. Because when your liver is full, stressed, and constantly in storage mode, it doesn't matter how hard you try. Fat loss becomes slower, harder, and sometimes completely stuck. And that's the part no one explains. You've probably heard that fasting helps your body burn fat. But here's what most people don't realize. Your liver doesn't start burning fat the moment you stop eating. In fact, for hours after your last meal, your body is still doing the exact opposite. It's still storing, still processing, still following the signals from what you just ate. So if you've ever tried fasting and thought, why isn't this working yet? It's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because you're expecting a change that your body hasn't been given the signal to make yet. Because the real story of fasting isn't about skipping food. It's about when your liver finally decides to switch. And until that moment happens, nothing really changes. It's easy to think that if you're not losing fat, something must be wrong with your body. That maybe your metabolism is slow, or your genetics are working against you, or you just don't have enough discipline. But the truth is much simpler and much more powerful than that. Your body isn't broken. In fact, it's working exactly the way it was designed to. The problem is not your body, it's the signals you're constantly giving it. Most people believe that eating less automatically leads to fat loss. It sounds logical. Less food means less energy, and less energy should mean your body starts using stored fat. But your body doesn't think in calories the way you do. It thinks in survival. And survival is controlled by hormones, not by math. The most important of these hormones is insulin. Every time you eat, especially carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises. In response, your pancreas releases insulin. And insulin has one main job: to store energy. It tells your liver to take glucose out of your blood and store it. It tells your fat cells to hold on to their fat. And most importantly, it sends a clear signal throughout your body. Do not burn fat right now. This is where everything changes. Because as long as insulin is elevated, fat is essentially locked away. It doesn't matter how much fat you have stored. It doesn't matter how much you want to burn it. Your body has been given a command, and that command is to store, not to release. Now think about how most people eat. Breakfast in the morning, a snack a few hours later, lunch, another snack, dinner, maybe something late at night. Each time you eat, insulin rises again, and before it has a chance to fully drop, you eat again. So your body stays in this constant cycle of storage. It never gets a clear signal that it's safe to switch. Your liver, in particular, is deeply affected by this pattern. It keeps receiving glucose. It keeps converting it into glycogen. And when those storage spaces are full, it begins converting excess energy into fat. That fat doesn't just disappear, it accumulates. Slowly, silently, over time. So when you start intermittent fasting, something important begins to happen. Not immediately, not in the first hour, but for the first time in a long time, your body is no longer receiving constant signals to store. Insulin begins to drop, and that drop is the first step toward unlocking fat. But here's the key insight. Your liver isn't refusing to burn fat. It hasn't been given permission yet. For years, it has been told, again and again, to store energy, to protect it, to keep it available. And now, suddenly, you've stopped eating, and you expect it to immediately switch directions. That's not how your body works. It doesn't react instantly. It transitions. It waits for the right signals. And until those signals are strong enough, it continues doing what it has always done. So if you've ever felt like fasting isn't working, what you're actually experiencing is the space between those signals. The moment where your body is no longer being told to store, but hasn't fully committed to burning yet. And understanding that moment changes everything. Because once you realize this isn't a failure, it's a process. You stop fighting your body and start working with it. In the first few hours after your last meal, your body is still living in the past. It's still responding to what you ate, still processing the nutrients, still following the signals that were triggered when food entered your system. Inside your liver, activity is high, but it's not the kind of activity most people expect when they think about fasting. As glucose from your last meal enters your bloodstream, your blood sugar rises. Your pancreas detects this and releases insulin, and insulin immediately begins directing traffic. It tells your liver to take that glucose out of the blood and store it for later. Your liver converts this glucose into glycogen, a compact, easily accessible form of stored energy. You can think of glycogen as your liver's short-term battery, something it can draw from quickly when needed. At the same time, insulin is doing something else that's even more important. It's actively preventing fat from being used. Fat cells throughout your body, including the fat stored inside your liver, are essentially locked. They're holding on to their energy, waiting for a different signal. And as long as insulin is present at elevated levels, that signal never comes. So even though you've stopped eating, your body is not in fat-burning mode yet. It's still in storage mode. Your liver is focused on organizing, storing, and stabilizing energy from your last meal. It's making sure your blood sugar stays within a safe range. It's doing its job perfectly. This is the part that confuses most people. They think the moment they stop eating, their body flips a switch and starts burning fat. But that switch doesn't exist in the way they imagine. There is no instant transformation. There is a sequence, a progression, a gradual shift that your body moves through step by step. During these first 0 to 4 hours, nothing feels dramatically different. You don't feel like you're burning fat. You don't feel like your body is changing. And that's because, biologically, it isn't, at least not yet. Your liver is still following the instructions it received from your last meal. But this phase is not meaningless. It's essential. Because this is where the process begins. This is where your body starts moving away from constant input. where it begins, slowly, to run on what it already has, instead of what you keep giving it. And even though fat burning hasn't started, something important is happening beneath the surface. Insulin, which was high just a short time ago, is beginning to decline. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But gradually. And that gradual decline is the first signal your body needs in order to prepare for what comes next. Because once insulin drops far enough, everything changes. But your body doesn't rush into that change. It waits. It stabilizes. It makes sure everything is in balance before it moves forward. So in these early hours, your liver isn't burning fat. It's preparing for the possibility. It's creating the conditions that will eventually allow that shift to happen. And until those conditions are met, your body stays exactly where it is, steady, controlled, and still in storage mode. As you move past those first few hours without food, something subtle begins to change inside your body. It's not dramatic. There's no sudden shift, no instant burst of fat burning. But beneath the surface, your internal signals are starting to rebalance. And between hours 4 and 8, insulin continues to fall. Not to zero, but low enough that its grip begins to loosen. At the same time, another hormone starts to rise, glucagon. And glucagon does the exact opposite of insulin. If insulin tells your body to store energy, glucagon tells it to release it. These two hormones work like a seesaw. When one goes up, the other goes down. And now, for the first time in hours, that balance is starting to tilt in the other direction. Your liver responds immediately. It turns to its stored glycogen and begins breaking it down into glucose. This process is called glycogenolysis, and it's how your body keeps your blood sugar stable when you're not eating. Instead of relying on incoming food, your liver is now feeding your brain and your body from its own reserves. This is a critical transition point. You are no longer dependent on external energy, but you are not yet burning fat either. You are in between. Your liver contains only a limited amount of glycogen, roughly enough to fuel your body for several hours. If you're resting, it may last longer. If you're active, it disappears faster. Either way, this phase is temporary, and as those glycogen stores slowly drain, your body starts to sense that something is changing. This is often the point where people begin to feel it. A slight sense of hunger, a drop in energy, maybe a bit of irritability or difficulty focusing. Your brain is used to a steady supply of glucose, and now that supply is being carefully rationed. But these sensations are not signs of weakness. They are signals. Your body is adjusting. It is recalibrating how it delivers energy. And more importantly, it is preparing for a deeper shift. This is also where many people stop. The discomfort is just enough to feel inconvenient, just enough to trigger the urge to eat again. And when they do, insulin rises once more, glycogen stores are refilled, and the entire process resets. The deeper benefits never arrive, not because they don't exist, but because the body was never given enough time to reach them. What most people don't realize is that this phase is not the goal. It's the doorway. Your liver is not trying to stay here. It's moving through it. It's using what it has stored, buying time, waiting for the moment when those reserves run low enough to force a decision. And that decision is where everything changes. Because once glycogen is no longer enough, your liver has no choice but to look somewhere else for energy. And when that happens, your entire metabolism begins to shift in a way that most people have never experienced before. But until that moment arrives, your body stays here, balanced between two worlds, no longer fed by food, but not yet powered by fat. just transitioning, quietly, beneath the surface. By the time you reach the 8 to 12-hour mark, your body is no longer able to rely on what it has stored in the same way. Glycogen levels inside your liver are now significantly reduced, and in many cases, nearly depleted. The short-term energy reserve that has been keeping your blood sugar stable is running out, and your body is forced to make a decision. This is the moment everything begins to change. Your liver shifts from releasing stored sugar to creating an entirely different kind of fuel. It turns to fat. Fat that has been stored in your body, including the fat that has been sitting inside your liver itself. And for the first time, that fat is no longer locked away. Because insulin is now low enough, fat cells receive a new signal. Instead of holding on to their energy, they begin to release it. Fatty acids enter your bloodstream and travel to your liver, where they are converted into molecules called ketones. This is what researchers refer to as the metabolic switch. You are no longer running on glucose from food or glycogen from storage. You are now running on energy created from your own body fat. This is not a small adjustment. This is a fundamental shift in how your body operates. Ketones provide a steady and efficient source of energy. Unlike glucose, which rises and falls depending on what and when you eat, ketones create a more stable environment. Your brain, your muscles, and even your heart can all use them. And many people report that once this shift happens, something unexpected occurs. Their hunger begins to fade. At first, this seems counterintuitive. You would expect that going longer without food would make you feel more hungry. But once your body starts accessing its own stored energy, that urgent need for food begins to quiet down. The sharp edges of hunger soften. The constant thinking about food becomes less intense. At the same time, another hormone begins to rise, growth hormone. This plays a protective role. While your body is now actively breaking down fat, it works to preserve muscle tissue. This is why short-term fasting does not automatically lead to muscle loss, despite what many people fear. Your body is designed to adapt intelligently. You may also notice subtle physical changes during this phase. Your breath might take on a slightly different scent, often described as fruity or metallic. This happens because ketones are partially released through your breath. It's not a problem. It's a signal. A sign that your metabolism has shifted. Mentally, something else often happens. Your focus sharpens. Your energy feels more stable. Without the constant rise and fall of blood sugar, your brain is no longer riding the same highs and crashes. Instead, it runs on a more consistent supply of fuel. This is the moment most people never reach. Not because it's impossible, but because they stop just before it happens. They experience the discomfort of transition, but never stay long enough to experience the reward. And that's why fasting often feels like it doesn't work. Not because it fails, but because the body was never given enough time to complete the switch. Because once this switch happens, your liver is no longer just managing energy. It is actively transforming your body from the inside out. As you move beyond that point, into the range of 12 hours and beyond, your body enters a phase that is far less talked about, but far more important than most people realize. Because now, your liver is not just burning fat for energy, it is beginning to clean itself. This process is called autophagy. The word itself comes from Greek, meaning self-eating, but what it actually represents is one of the most advanced survival mechanisms built into your body. When external energy is limited, your cells begin to look inward. They start identifying what is damaged, what is unnecessary, and what can be broken down and reused. Inside your liver, This process becomes highly specific. It is known as lipophagy, a targeted form of autophagy that focuses on fat stored within liver cells. Those fat droplets that have accumulated over time, often silently, without symptoms, are now being broken apart. They are transported into structures within the cell that act like recycling centers, where they are dismantled into usable components. Those components are then either used as fuel or repurposed to build new, healthier cellular structures. This is not a superficial change. This is happening at the cellular level. Damaged proteins that no longer function properly are removed. The old or dysfunctional mitochondria, the structures responsible for producing energy, are broken down and replaced. Inflammation inside the liver begins to decrease as the internal environment becomes cleaner and more efficient. And this is where the role of fasting expands beyond fat loss, because your liver is no longer just reducing stored fat. It is repairing itself. This is the part most people never see, because it doesn't show up immediately on the outside. There's no instant visual transformation. But internally, the conditions are changing in a way that affects everything. How your body processes energy, how stable your blood sugar is, how efficiently your metabolism functions. You may start to notice small signals. Your energy feels more even throughout the day. The intense hunger that used to appear at certain times becomes less predictable, less urgent. Your mind feels clearer, less foggy. These are not random improvements. They are the result of a more stable internal environment. At the same time, the fat inside your liver continues to decrease. As these fat droplets are broken down and removed, the liver itself begins to return closer to its normal size and function. This reduces the strain on the organ and allows it to perform its many roles more effectively. But none of this happens instantly. This phase depends on consistency, on giving your body enough time, repeatedly, to enter this state. One fast may initiate the process, but it is the repetition over days and weeks that allows the full effect to develop. And what's important to understand is that your body already knows how to do all of this. You are not forcing it. You are not introducing something artificial. You are simply removing the constant interruption of food long enough for these built-in systems to activate again. Because your liver was designed to do this. It has always had this ability. It has always had the capacity to clean, to repair, to regenerate. It just hasn't been given the time. And when it finally gets that time, it doesn't just burn fat. It begins to restore itself in a way that most people never realize is even possible. As you continue further, moving into the range of 18 hours and beyond, your body is no longer in transition. It is fully committed to this internal state. The processes that began earlier are now operating at a deeper level, more efficiently, more consistently. And your liver, in particular, begins to shift from simply cleaning to actively repairing. One of the clearest signs of this comes from what happens inside your blood. There are specific enzymes, ALT and AST, that normally live inside your liver cells. When those cells are stressed, inflamed, or damaged, these enzymes leak into your bloodstream. Doctors use them as signals. Elevated levels often mean something is wrong with your liver. What's interesting is that when people practice intermittent fasting consistently, these levels often begin to drop, not overnight, but over time. This suggests that the stress inside the liver is decreasing. The cells are no longer under the same pressure. They are stabilizing. At the same time, another important change begins to take place. Your sensitivity to insulin improves. Earlier, insulin was the hormone that kept fat locked away. but now your body becomes more responsive to it. This means it needs less insulin to manage the same amount of glucose, and with lower overall insulin levels circulating, it becomes easier for fat to leave your liver and stay out. This creates a positive cycle. Less fat in the liver leads to better function. Better function leads to improved metabolic control, and that, in turn, makes it easier for your body to maintain balance even when you do eat. There is also something unique about the liver that sets it apart from almost every other organ in your body. It has the ability to regenerate. Even when a significant portion is damaged or removed, the remaining cells can grow and restore much of its original function. This regenerative capacity is one of the reasons the liver responds so well when given the right conditions. And fasting, when done appropriately, helps create those conditions. With reduced inflammation, ongoing autophagy, and improved metabolic signaling, your liver begins to move into a state where repair is not just possible, it becomes the priority. Damaged cells are replaced. Functional capacity improves. The internal environment becomes more stable. You may begin to notice changes on the outside as this continues over weeks. Your waistline may start to decrease, particularly in the upper abdominal area where liver fat and visceral fat tend to accumulate. Your energy throughout the day becomes more consistent, without the sharp dips that used to follow meals. Your thinking feels clearer, more steady. Even your relationship with food can begin to change. The constant pull toward eating, those automatic cravings, becomes quieter. You feel more in control, not because you are forcing yourself, but because your body is no longer sending the same urgent signals. But this is also where it's important to be realistic. These changes do not happen after a single fast. They are the result of repetition, of allowing your body to enter this state again and again, long enough for the internal systems to adapt and stabilize. Most meaningful improvements tend to appear over several weeks, not days. And there is another critical moment that many people overlook: the moment you break your fast. When you eat again, insulin rises. Your body shifts back into storage mode. But now, something is different. Your liver will first prioritize refilling its glycogen stores before converting excess energy into fat. This creates a window where your body can handle incoming food more efficiently. However, if you overwhelm that system by eating too quickly, too much, or choosing highly processed foods, your liver is forced back into the same pattern it was trying to escape. Excess energy gets converted back into fat, and the cycle begins again. So how you break your fast matters just as much as the fast itself. A more controlled approach allows your body to transition smoothly. Your digestive system, which has been relatively inactive, needs time to adjust. Eating more slowly, choosing balanced foods, and paying attention to how you feel can make a significant difference. And when you look at the entire process from beginning to end, a clear pattern emerges. In the early hours, your liver is processing and storing energy. As time passes, it begins releasing stored glycogen. When that runs low, it switches to burning fat and producing ketones. Then, as the fast continues, it activates deeper cleaning through autophagy. And eventually, it enters a state where repair and regeneration become more active. This is not a trick. It is not a shortcut. It is a sequence your body has always known how to follow. Intermittent fasting doesn't create this system. It simply allows it to run. And that changes the way you should think about it. Because fasting is not something you force your body to do. It is something you allow your body to return to. But it's also important to remember that it is just one piece of a larger picture. The quality of the food you eat still matters. Your sleep still matters. Your activity still matters. These all interact with the same systems inside your body. And fasting is not for everyone. If you have specific medical conditions, if you feel unwell, or if your body is giving you signals that something isn't right, those signals should be taken seriously. The goal is not to push through discomfort blindly. The goal is to support your body in a way that works for you. So what does all of this mean in the simplest terms? It means your liver is not passive. It is not just sitting there waiting for fat to disappear. It is actively responding to the signals you give it every hour of the day. When you eat constantly, it stores. When you give it time, it releases. When you extend that time, it cleans. And when you do it consistently, it begins to repair. Your liver already knows how to do all of this. It always has. The only question is whether you give it the time to do it. Have you ever noticed when your hunger suddenly disappears during a fast? Or when your energy feels more stable instead of crashing? Those are not coincidences. They are signals that something inside your body has shifted. If this made you see fasting differently, share your thoughts below. And if you want to understand more about what your body is actually doing beneath the surface, this is just the beginning. Because the more you understand these hidden processes, the more control you gain over them. And maybe for the first time, you're not trying to fight your body anymore. You're finally working with it.